Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group with your end of day recap for Thursday. Very similar to what we talked about yesterday. I've got the S&P chart up here, but really not more than like a couple seconds I want to say anything about the S&P chart. Flat basically for 2 days in a row here. However, there are just a ton of there's a ton of separation amongst sectors. So the reason why the S&P is not really moving is because we just don't have full participation in this market right now. You've got some sectors moving up and some sectors moving down, and it seems like it's a daily occurrence right now. So, you know, I would say selling iron condors would be a good strategy here to sell out of the money calls and out of the money puts. There's just not a lot to really collect on that trade. So, normally that's a great trade, but with the VIX at like, where do we close today in the VIX? At 10.5. There's just not a lot of not a lot of premium to collect on that trade. I mean, you really have to put your iron condor very, very close to the money. So it just to me, it's a trade that I like to do when I think sideways markets are happening, but there's just not a lot to collect on that trade. So. I'll talk briefly about the Qs. Try to get going today and kind of came back in towards. There's a little bit of an uptick in volatility at the end of the day. We look like we're kind of turning the corner in the Qs, and this chart looks very similar in technology. There's a lot of charts that look the same, but it looks like we tried to turn the corner here a bit, and it seems like we're just having a little bit difficulty trying to retake this. So I think you just have to be patient. There's no sell signal or anything like that. It looks like there's just not a lot of momentum right now. We had a really nice day a couple days this week. Gave back some of those profits in the Qs, but we are higher than where we started the week decently. So again, this was kind of a gap up on Monday, so you kind of have to think about that in terms of that. And if you could see this a little bit better when you look at the futures from where we started the week. So it has been moving higher. It's just a little bit slow, which is fine. So if you're in some, if you're not fixated on day trading the indices or some things, you're doing pretty well because we're inching up. Like I'm in call spreads and a few different things, and it's working out pretty nicely for me. So I'm really not going to talk too much about those momentum names, in terms of the FANG stocks, because they all kind of look the same. They really haven't done much. Really, where the movers have been today, it was the hospital group. I would say MDRX. I'm spelling this wrong. MDRX, huge day in this one. This was a name that we played today in the trading room. I got a pretty good fill on this trade today. MDRX, for whatever reason, I'm having a hard time, but there's 13,000 of these, and these came in different pieces. There was 5,000, 1,000, 800, 800. So I hit the first one that went in today for real nice trade today for 20 cents, and I took a target today at 45 cents, so better than a double in a couple hours. So a really nice day trade, and I'm holding on to 50% of the trade. I think there's just more upside considering how much they kept on adding to it. I think the last time that they added was at 45 cents, which they probably took some options from me. So real nice play with that one. Um, we've been calling out the option activity the last couple of days in CSIQ. This name did come back a little bit today, but you look at the 2 day move, and it's been pretty astonishing in this solar name. There's some rumors about solar panels going on this wall with Mexico. Who knows? But we did see we basically, instead of following the headlines, we follow the option activity, and they certainly tagged CSIQ yesterday with calls. And this was CSIQ yesterday a couple times. Calls, 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 calls. It wasn't the biggest trade in the world, but if you're observant, as we did, we caught this trade yesterday, and then there was a bunch of activity today in CSIQ. January 20 calls, October 18 calls. Pretty much everything for CSIQ. We also played First Solar today. First Solar, also a huge winner today. It did sell off. I managed to catch close to the highs. I had a trailing stop, and I actually sold it here, but First Solar Where's my trade blotter? You could see I got into First Solar today for 73 cents. Said it may be a day trade. I'm out of First Solar at $1.40, so just about a double on that one. For my last target, which was up here. It actually got up to like $1.70. And I was just kind of letting the last piece ride, but real nice. The solar ETF 10 finished up 2.5% on the day. I was looking at, I mean, some of these biotech names are reclaiming some really interesting levels. We could talk about that. You know, it's a 5-year chart, but you go back to 1 year, RDUS is reclaiming the 200-day moving average. So where was it going to go? 10, the whole solar ETF. You know, pretty nice move above and is making some nice progress here above the 200-day moving average. You got what, a golden cross here? It looks like with the 50-day crossing above the 100 and the 50-day crossing above the 100 and 200. That's pretty positive looking there in the solar ETF. And then it was besides MDRX, which is in that healthcare space. What's the other name? THC. I actually went long this one in cash today with a close above the 200-day moving average. Let me just back this thing up here for a minute. 5-year chart. This was once a $60 stock. You know, has been in a pretty decent downtrend. It's done this a couple times where it's gotten above the 200-day moving average and kind of failed. So let's see. I talked about this one earlier as being an easy setup. Why is this an easy setup? Because I've got my stop right at the 200-day moving average. If it doesn't work, it'll be a small loser. So I'll play those trades all day, any day, with my defined support and where I know I want to get out of it. But I like to close above the 200-day moving average in this one. What else? Actually, the steel names were pretty strong today. They were up 1.5% today. Metals and mining was pretty strong. Gold miners were strong all day today. Bonds and gold both finished positive on the day. Gold started the day strong, but you know this TLT just continues to kind of grind, and little bit by little bit just continues to move higher since it crossed the 200-day moving average. You had a quick check back here in the 200 once it got above the yellow line. Quick check back here, and since then it's just kind of been doing its thing and moving slowly higher and higher here. So I don't think that would be necessary. I don't think it's necessarily a warning here. I just think you could be long bonds here above the 200-day moving average. GLD. Talk about gold here for a minute. Looks like we'll go back to the 1 year. Looks like the 200-day moving average is being defended here. We've actually seen some call buying this week. You can see no major inflows in here, but you can see right around that 200-day moving average. It looks like somebody's defending it, as we've seen call buyers now a couple times this week. What else? I feel like I'm leaving a lot out. In terms of the semi space, a couple names that saw activity this week. ADI. This one saw call buying today and saw January calls go up a couple days ago. LXRX, Lam Research. Oh, I'm sorry. This is, do I have the wrong name? LXRX. Yeah, LXRX, I guess a different name here. Also seeing 4,000 of the August 20 calls go up today. So another name that's had a real nice week, and they're buying calls pretty aggressively in this name. So they bought these a couple times today, the August 20s, all over that name. Let's see, I'm just seeing some headlines out. Looks like Bed Bath & Beyond missed comp sales down 2% versus estimated 0.3. Dollar General names a couple new. Sorry, I'm just looking at headlines as it's just 15 minutes past the hour. And then healthcare, up I would say what 10% this week. Kind of ran out of steam a little bit. The whole XBI. So you got a doji candle for today in XBI. So could be this thing has gotten a little bit overbought. Look for this to kind of backfill a little bit. So if you missed this whole trade in biotech, or if you're or you have fear of missing out, let this maybe come back to you. These things just don't always go up in a straight line as they have done this week. So you got a doji candle for today. It is higher. See if this kind of comes back in a little bit. You may get a chance to get back. If you're patient, you may get a chance to go long this. We did see a little bit of put buying in some things that have run up a lot. Bristol Myers, a huge winner for some some folks in the trading room today. Pfizer also took off, so it's kind of like the second or third leg today in the rally in healthcare names. A lot of names like this, Teva, also rallied really hard today, finished basically on the highs. So, another name. It seems to me a lot of short covering. And I think we got a short squeeze going on a lot of these things. Like Gilead, for example, if this isn't a short squeeze, I don't know what is in Gilead. A lot of option buying all week long, and this one managed to get all the way up to the 200-day moving average. So I think here's a great place to take some targets if you got long, or take some money off the table as it got up to the 200-day moving average, and you could see that it did not close there. So, a huge move, $64 to 70 in a couple days. I'm not long. I played Gilead earlier in the week and got out of it way too early. But I was thinking that this would be the resistance, and it managed to just power right through this. So that's the positives today. I didn't go through all the option activity. You could see there was a lot of it. ILG had a nice call buyer today. August, and also I believe it was a January risk reversal, meaning calls bought, put sold in this one. Yeah, January 30s. So, it wasn't all about biotech today and healthcare. There were some other names that participated, and besides solar, I don't want to leave that one out as well. HRL was a nice trade today. That's another name I got long today. We saw call buyer. So again, another different sector. HRL, Hormel Foods, a name that's below the 200-day moving average. So every once in a while, I'll take a shot at something that's a counter trend trade, only if I really see a lot of activity. So there's 7,000 of the July 35 calls that went up. And then if you kind of take a look at yesterday, whoops, HRL, there was 4,000, same strike. So I would expect tomorrow the open interest to be around 10,000 in HRL. So something like this, where there's just a huge amount of activity, I will play as a counter trend trade. I normally don't do I normally don't sell annuities. No, I'm just kidding. I normally just don't put on as large of size in this one. Or in counter trend trades, I should say. So I did play this one. I took half off for profits today, but I'm hanging on to this one just to see what's up with this one. Let's see. We'll go through a couple other names, and then we'll call it a day. The stress results should be out shortly too. Win, also a nice call buyer in Win. So Win has just kind of been in beast mode. But casino names, we saw MGM calls go up the other day. You could see some December 155 calls. Again, don't be deceived by the amount of the contracts. 565 here. So, and these look like they were bought in December 155. So somebody looking for a lot more upside. Crazy how expensive these are. 565 implied volatility is what, a 31 in here, so not cheap to play that name. Last one, Salesforce.com. Kind of looks like that NASDAQ chart, maybe a little bit more healthier, but made a nice turn today, up 1%. This was a name that I got into before there was any option activity. I just saw what Oracle was doing and thought it might get some pin action today, so I stayed in this one as well. I took one profit target in CRM, but you could see that there was some SEP 90s and some weeklies that also went up in Salesforce.com. But again, I got into this trade right. That was the first trade I took this morning. So that's it for today's recap. It's the same thing. Just a lot of sectors are doing well. Groups that didn't do well today, and kind of the reason why the S&P finished flat. You had home builders down today; they were down close to 1%, and you had the banks down as well. Energy names were not on the bad list today. Utilities were also down 0.5% today. And some agriculture, I think, was also down. I see DBA down 1.6%. So that's it for today's recap. Have a great evening, and see you back Friday morning. Have a great night.